think we were the first stop on Post Malone's knife journey. We had talked to some friends who knew him. He was in town for a show, and he wanted to get some knives and have a knife shop. Seems logical. We weren't exactly prepared for the visit, but it was I think it was like 9 or 10 a.m. It was me and two of my guys catching up from a very long night of too many that happened in Las Vegas. So we were drinking coffee and some Red Bull, as we still do. And one of the guys ran back and he told me, he's like, "There's a celebrity here." Okay, sure, great. Have him in. At the time, I'll fully admit, I was unfamiliar with Post and all of his work. He had his whole entourage with him. They all came back, and they had, of course, not gone to sleep. They had been up for multiple days, as is Las Vegas. They had a great time. They hung out. We had a bunch of beers. They drank all our beer. They went and got. I will say, they were the only crew that drank all our beer, which was free and totally fine. Came back 2 hours later with 2 cases of beer. So good on them. That was legit. And it was great.
Hello and welcome to the Off-Grid Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick, and today my guest is Jeremiah Burbank, the owner, operator, PhD, doctorate valedictorian of PVK, a pretty well-known store in the knife community. Jeremiah, thank you for joining me.
How's it going? Happy to be here.
Excellent. So, like I was saying before we get started, I always like to ask what your origin story is. And you can go back as far as you like, if you want to tell us about how you were abused as a child or, like what your awkward teenage years were like. You can do that. You can start wherever you want.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. Excited to be here. So PVK, right? It's family business then, family business now, always has been, always will be a family business. Happy to be family owned in the cutlery space. It starts in the early 90s. My older brother, Josh, started this probably officially in like 92, but the company was incorporated in 94. It started out in our hometown of Amherst, Massachusetts. It was originally sort of a gentleman's store, right? We had cutlery, lighters, like Nikon binoculars, that sort of thing, in that period of time, we would call that the EDC stuff of the day. A year or two passes, knife sales increase, product line changes to just knives. And at that point, it was just a cutlery store, and he was building relationships with all of the major brands, which we now know, talking to Les directly at Benchmade and working with Tony Marfione for Microtech. We're still dealers and have been for whatever it is, 30 years now. And it was a sort of a success from the beginning. So retail side was just knives. My brother was a huge early adopter of technology. So as soon as 96-ish came around, the internet, right? So bought up a bunch of URLs, one of which we still use to this day, pvk.com.
What does PVK stand for?
Great question. So originally the business was Pioneer Valley Knife and Tool. Obviously, when the transition to just cutlery happened, it was just, Pioneer Valley Knife. So it was just the PVK. So we have that beautiful 3-character URL, pvk.com. It's the shortest one I've ever seen in any industry. Getting one of those these days would cost you, I don't know, arm and a leg and a spare kid probably. So PVK moved onto the internet, right? So internet sales in the mid to late 90s started to boom. At that point, there were 2 retail locations in our hometown, and it made sense to sort of close those and focus just on mail order at the time, right? E-commerce before it was e-commerce kind of thing. So probably 99-ish, it was really purely on the internet at that point. Both locations, had employees that were, some of them transitioned to the mail order side. Some of them were just, let go as the case is. And the business was a mail order business from 2000 until a while later. I jumped on in 2001 to help do the media side of the business. At the time, videos on the internet weren't really a thing in the early 2000s. So the pioneer in that space. We brought videos of knives to the internet. That didn't exist, and YouTube wasn't a thing in 2001. So we were doing knife videos sort of over the shoulder. He would handle the knives, talk about the knives. I would film it, encode it. We built a website, videoknife.com. And it was a wild ride. The 2000s were it was a time of expansion. It was a time of like Wild West internet sales across the board, right? You have basically all of the businesses that we now rely so greatly on were sort of forged in those early days. Yeah, no, it was great. And the middle 2000s kind of saw a huge boom in the knife industry, right? We saw a lot of the knife industry online expand into brands that we have now, my competitors. We're all in the same space. We're competitors. We don't really, the knife industry, as I'm sure you know, it's not like other industries where it's so brutal and cutthroat. I know all my competitors. I'm on a first name basis with them, and we joke to who got to the internet first. Maybe 6 months here, 6 months there, whatever. But yeah, the middle 2000s were great. Saw a huge boom in the knife industry from custom knife makers, from production knife companies. The whole thing sort of took off quite a bit. We'll sort of move through the middle 2000s to the 2010-ish, where you saw a huge boom in sort of the automatic and the balisong space in the knives. So switchblades, butterfly knives, those things really started to come. I mean, in the 90s, it was a big thing, but it was very sort of gray market, under the covers a little bit. But by 2010, it was exploded. You had brands like Microtech and Benchmade blowing up the scene, creating amazing production and in some case custom automatics and balisongs. And we, at that point, we're still in Amherst. And then in 2013-ish, we actually moved to down the street from where I am now, but we moved to New Hampshire to open up a showroom. So New Hampshire was the first state in the union to legalize the sale and the manufacture of automatics. It was the first one. It's the live free or die state. Absolutely. Yep.
Interesting.
So, and now, years later, there's an incredible amount of states. Most of the states have some sort of automatic law or gravity knife or butterfly knife law that's been taken off the books. But New Hampshire was the first. So it made sense. Where I was in Massachusetts, and New Hampshire is 2 hours away. So moved the business to New Hampshire. We opened up a showroom, continued the expansion, and that's where things sort of really started to take off for the business. A good friend of ours, Hank Greenberg of Blackside Customs, shout out to Hank, came back from Las Vegas to visit us, but the show was a pivotal show. It was the USN gathering. I don't remember what gathering number it was, but it was, it was 2013, 2014. And he came back and he said, man, you guys have got to check this out. The show is amazing. Las Vegas is this fantastical place.
I don't know if that's what I'd call it.
How about it depends on why you're going and what reason you're there. And, I have
fair enough.
Vegas is, yeah. So we said, okay, great. So my brother and I traveled to Las Vegas. We went check it out. We did some recon, and it turned out it was a really good idea. So we got back to the shop in New Hampshire, and less than a year later, we had packed up the whole shop, and we made a cross-country trip to Las Vegas. We packed up the whole thing into a pair of trucks, drove them cross-country, and we had, at that point, an appointment-only showroom right off the airport, so very convenient for people traveling in. And we did that for a few years, made some amazing friends in Las Vegas who were well-connected, and they had friends who owned real estate on the Strip. And their friends came in and they saw, we had this very luxurious appointment-only showroom at the time. We had a beautiful Oldhausen full-size billiards table. We had a drink cooler, very Vegas appointment-only style thing. And they were enamored with it. And they said, okay, I have property on Las Vegas Boulevard. You guys need to take this experience that you're doing here, and you need to expose the public to this in a real honest way. Like this is totally crazy. The knife thing, the whole vibe of having this, luxurious space where you can take a look at, multi-$1,000 switchblades, or Spydercos, whatever the case may be. And so 2016, we secured the store on Las Vegas Boulevard, and that was another key part in the business. We opened up the showroom early 2017, and to tangent off your question earlier, PVK, that's when PVK turned into PVK Vegas, and that's sort of where things took another step into the stratosphere for us. Las Vegas Boulevard is totally crazy. To sum it up in the best way that if you've ever been to Las Vegas, you might be familiar. The strip.
So I've been to Vegas, right, for SHOT Show, right?
Okay, yeah.
And it's insane. Then is it like that all year round?
It's like that 70% of the time.
Okay.
Yeah, 80% of the time. So right, so SHOT Show is a total. Okay, I love SHOT Show. I love going to SHOT Show. I love checking out everything in SHOT Show. It's a nightmare. Like it's huge. You're interfacing with thousands of people a day. Most people aren't used to that kind of social interaction.
No.
And then navigating Las Vegas, if you're not used to it, the whole city's designed to get you lost while sober. And if you're not sober, best of luck. Like, we'll see you tomorrow. You're gone. So SHOT Show is there. SHOT Show leaves, another convention comes. That convention leaves, another convention comes. I mean, living in Vegas for years, I can tell you, it's just that one convention you think is there. But when your convention leaves, next week it's the refrigerator convention, and after that it's the sign printing. It's every month there's some sort of we had a convention calendar. So no, Las Vegas Boulevard is like that. There's probably a couple months out of the year where it's calm, and then nobody's there. But even then, calm in Las Vegas is not very calm compared to most metropolitan cities, right? So yeah, the shop on the strip was it was a blast. There was a lot of people, like 10,000 people a week walked by the storefront. People from all over the world, right? Tourists, businessmen, ballers, whoever, gangsters, real world and not, one percenters, the whole gamut, right? All of humanity walked by our strip in Las Vegas, and we interfaced with most of those people a lot of the time. So we had a signboard, and to give you an idea for everybody out there, when I say on Las Vegas Boulevard, I mean truly on Las Vegas Boulevard. If you never had the pleasure of coming to the shop, there's Las Vegas Boulevard, which you think of as, a sidewalk, and we were 60 feet off of that front door. So, I mean, not in a hotel, I mean, proper on the boulevard. So we'd have a signboard to get people's attention. We would put that just on the edge of the sidewalk. And the guys and I would hang out there, and we'd flip alley songs. And there might have been some chain smoking of cigarettes as the days were long. And we would bring people in, right? We would have these butterfly knives. We'd be flipping them.
I was going to say, I bet you should have had some butterfly knife guys out there just going crazy.
Absolutely, we did. Yeah,
nice,
no, it was nice. It was great because of the amount of people that came by. People were like, what the hell are you doing? Like, that's not legal. Of course, at the time, totally legal. It's Nevada. There's a lot of things that are legal in Nevada, including switchblades. And so, no, it was a blast. Somebody would hit it big at the casino. They would come in. They didn't know knives exist. We were happy to show them knives. So, somebody would come in from, a family vacation, and the dad, a lot of times it was the dad, the dad would come in, and, he'd see an Italian, auto, what we call classic Italian. And he would go, oh my God, the Tijuana story. Like, I went down to Tijuana when I was a kid. I bought one of these, and, my dad took it away from me. He's like, I have to have this, and he would buy one, and, the stories and the memories would all kind of come back. So being in Las Vegas on the boulevard, selling knives to the world like that, again, every end of the spectrum, it was so much fun, seeing people light up, hooking somebody and being like, they had no idea that things like this existed. And then they left the store and, overnight or over an hour, they were a knife guy, and that's really cool. That's to inspire somebody to get, in this case, addicted to knife collecting, or just the appreciation of these tools, as art objects in a lot of cases. The high end custom ones, obviously, it's more of a collection piece than it is a user. But yeah, Vegas was wild, and we infamously, or not infamously, if you weren't familiar, had the VIP room. So the shop in Vegas was a long rectangle. In the front was the showroom, the middle was the VIP, and the back was operations, inventory, etc. So the middle section was the VIP. We had some Eames lounge chairs and some ottomans to match. We had big glass cases. The lighting was different. The music was different. It was quieter. We had drinks, obviously. And in order to get access to the VIP, you had to say the right thing or be the right person or perhaps have the right piece of accoutrement on you to gain access. It's certain, depending on the time of day, the right person could gain access who wasn't that person, but most of the time it was very busy. So it was sort of, it was a VIP room. It is what it is. If you came in, totally torn rags and barefoot, but you had a Patek on your wrist, that's an easy, sure, like you should come into check out the back room. That's an easy tell, as we would say. And it became sort of a center point for the community in Vegas at the time. USN, the show that originally got us there, was 300 feet away down the street. So during the show, knife makers, collectors, CEOs of these production companies, they would all come to the shop because they'd want to see the VIP room. They want to hang out on the strip in the knife store on Las Vegas Boulevard. So it was a special time. It was a lot of fun, and it was a very community thing.
That does sound super cool. Were there any kind of like back room handshake deal type of things going on in the VIP room?
Not a single
one. Are you at liberty to say?
The back room was a whole other environment, and whatever happened in the back room, a lot of things did, and they stayed locked away in those people's memory for a very long time. But we were able to host people there who might not have otherwise come in. We had celebrities come in, which was great. We were happy to be the gateway for a lot of celebrities to get into the knife industry, into the knife community.
Are you allowed to say who?
Sure. Yeah. So we had, I think we were the first stop on Post Malone's knife journey. We had talked to some friends who knew him. He was in town for a show, and he wanted to get some knives and, have a knife shop. Seems logical. We weren't exactly prepared for the visit, but it was, I think it was like 9 or 10 a.m. It was me and two of my guys catching up from a very long night of too many that happened in Las Vegas. So we were drinking coffee and some Red Bull, as we still do. And one of the guys ran back and he told me, he's like, "There's a celebrity here." Okay, sure, great. Have him in. At the time, I'll fully admit, I was unfamiliar with Post and all of his work, so I was able to sort of navigate the sale rather well and accommodate his presence because I was very unstarstruck. So I was just, very polite individual, really nice guy. He had his whole entourage with him. They all came back, and they had, of course, not gone to sleep. They had been up for multiple days, as is Las Vegas. They had a great time. They hung out. We had a bunch of beers. They drank all our beer. They went and got. I will say, they were the only crew that drank all our beer, which was free and totally fine. Came back 2 hours later with 2 cases of beer. So good on them. That was legit. And it was great. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you are at a point. We're all humans, right? We're all sharing in this existence together. But a celebrity of that caliber, he came in and immediately it was a kid in a candy store situation. The first thing he wanted to see was a Swiss champ. A really big Swiss Army knife, has like 100 and something tools on it. He was like, "Do you have one of those giant Swiss Army knives?" I had one. I had one left. I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, I'm taking it. I love that. All of his crew, same thing. Super, super polite, very nice. And everyone was just, in the end, like, the facade of ego was lit. Not that Post has a lot of that, but it was lifted. And then in the moment, it was just kids in a candy shop, just knives. Aerosmith came in, Johnny Depp came in. Vegas was huge for celebrities. It was huge for everybody. And it was awesome to have the VIP to host these guys because, they want to come in, and they do. They want their own space. They don't want to be, "Oh, can I have your autograph? Can I have a selfie?"
Swarmed by people.
Yeah. And I I get that. Come hang out in the VIP. It's totally chill. Steven Tyler came in a bunch of times, bought a bunch of switchblades. Johnny Depp loves switchblades. All these guys secretly, they like knives a lot, and they like knives with springs in them even more.
Who doesn't?
That's what you're right. That's what kind of I'm a knife guy, but at the end of the day, I'm a switchblade guy. I'm about it. Knives with springs in them, they're more fun than regular knives. They're like knives but better.
They're enhanced knives.
Exactly, and knives that have been enhanced. So Vegas was great. Yeah.
You're not? Are you there still, or?
So I'm not still in Las Vegas. So 2021, 2021, end of 2021. Unfortunately, my brother passed away while we were in Vegas unexpectedly.
Sorry to hear that.
It happens, and it was a trying time, shall I say. So he passed away, and then about a month or two later, my landlord came to me. Landlord's a loose term in Las Vegas, but we'll just say landlord for now. Not that there was a lease or anything, but he came and he's, I don't know if your brother talked to you or not. He's like, but we're tearing the building down to build the F1 track. They have F1 in Vegas now.
Yeah.
And where the building was on the Strip. So to give everybody an idea, if you're familiar with Las Vegas, we were at City Center. So Planet Hollywood is here, the Cosmopolitan is here, the Aria is here, and this is where the shop was. They were tearing down this part. It was the last part of the Strip that was a small business, sort of, I would call it an incubator. Our neighbors were all small businesses. It was a great space to be in for that, but it was the only space that wasn't a casino on Las Vegas Boulevard, really, at the city center there. So he was like, look, we're tearing this down. We're gonna put bleachers here. You have to be out in a couple months. Good luck. Best of, sorry about everything, but just letting you know. So as you can imagine, it's a bit of a double hit. It's a lot at once. So it was really sort of a split-second decision to sort of say my piece with the city. It was extremely helpful, and it was a pleasure to be there. Lots of friends, were made, but you have to in life and in business, you have to take things as they come and say, okay, that's the universe trying to tell me something. It's time to pack up. It's time to go home. So April of 2022, in a very cyclical nature, I got 2 trucks, packed up the business. Some of the guys came with me, some of the guys didn't, and we moved back to New Hampshire, where I am now. Now I'm in New Hampshire. Fortuitously, at the time, I was talking to a very good friend of mine, Mr. Nick Chuprin of NCC Knives. He's a knife maker. He was at the time in Brooklyn, New York. And he was like, man, I really want to get out of New York. I really want to build switchblades. I want to build all kinds of stuff that I can't be building in New York. And I said, okay, well, I'm moving to New Hampshire. I'm moving back to sort of the area I'm familiar with. I'm like, why don't you come do this? Let's split the rent. Let's team up. Let's have a knife retailer and a knife manufacturer in the same place. So that's what happened. We flew out here to New Hampshire, in the southern New Hampshire area. We're in Hudson. Found a giant warehouse space, which at the time seemed way too big, and now it is starting to be way too small. And we hurriedly signed a lease, sort of in that weird, whatever we're calling post-COVID area. So finding this place was
the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, it was like not sort of the end of COVID, but like not really, whatever. That sort of gray area. We found this place. We moved here. Moving a business is a total nightmare. I wish that on nobody.
Any move is a total nightmare.
Yeah, no, any move is a nightmare, and when you have thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces of inventory, it's great. We did. Wow, 2 thumbs up.
You survived.
We survived. We did it, and we got here, and now so PVK is in the front. I have a 6,500 square foot warehouse. I'm in the front. Nick's in the back. So we've got knife sales and e-commerce in the front, and in the back we have a huge machine shop. We have a machining cell where Nick is making knives and manufacturing things, and it's been really great. I'm happy to be back in New England. I'm a New Englander at heart. So Vegas was amazing, but I'm happy to be back here. I approve of the weather and everyone's angry. I like it so much better.
New England has much better seafood.
Yes, it does.
Than Vegas.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah, we're 45 minutes from Boston, where we are now. And I spent a lot of time in Cambridge growing up, so I'm happy to be back on the East Coast. It's great, and I have a showroom now in Hudson. I have a showroom a couple hundred feet over here. Just gesturing wildly, like anybody can see that. But
They can if they're
it's
watching YouTube.
yeah, right, exactly. See, so we've got a showroom. It's great. We've got regular people coming in. We're building a Northeast contingent cutlery sort of community thing, getting people to come out, hang out at the shop. Uh, it's been really great to be out of Vegas, to be back in New England, and to be teaming up because now we have this sort of knife clubhouse, we call it, where it's knives all the time, everywhere you go.
Nice, nice. Man, so okay, you guys started early 90s, mid 90s, right? You said 94?
Yes, yep. Our
So
94 is our official established date.
were you guys always into knives? Is like how did that even transpire? I mean, who was like,
That's,
you know what,
that's a
I'm
good
getting a
question.
knife shop going?
If you ask my mom, which you shouldn't, my brother always had a knife on him when he shouldn't, and then brought it to all kinds of places he also shouldn't. So very early on, was very much into ballet songs. So my brother always had a ballet song on him, even at school, where he definitely, even in those days, was not a great call. And so he was always a knife guy. And, by osmosis, being the younger brother, it was my job to break into his room and break into the storage thing and take knives and then eventually take knives to school. That was how it all started. Like I think my first knife that I can think of was maybe it was a Masters of Defense Lady Hawk, which is a very particular old school like hooked automatic. And I got caught with that in school. That wasn't great. And my mom wasn't even surprised. She was like, "Oh yeah, the other one brought a knife to school. That's fantastic." And then I mean, for me, that was it. I mean, I joke with a lot of guys, but so like knives and being a knife dealer, right? It's very much like who I am. It's very much part of my whole life. I didn't think this was a great idea. I didn't think this was a beneficial investment. I wasn't bored looking to be an entrepreneur. I wasn't whatever. Like this has been my life since as long as I can remember. Like I would get out of school, I would walk downtown, I would hang out at the knife shop, I would use the phone to, call friends or whatever, call for a ride. I was around the whole time. So I mean, knives have been, part of my life for as long as I've been me.
In your DNA.
It kind of is. It really is. It's not anything else. How am I a knife guy? I grew up like this. This is, it's a serious problem. I can't get rid of it.
So I mean, okay, now that you're back, and we're through the fog of post COVID and all that stuff,
Huh.
what sort of trends are you seeing in the knife world now? You're talking switchblades are popular, and gravity fed or gravity knives and things like that. I mean, like, is there something that you can see on the horizon up and coming?
So I think that yes, there is a two-part answer. Yes, automatics and bally songs have always been super popular, and they've been growing in popularity, and will continue to grow in popularity because they're the two types of knives that you cannot import into the United States, right? You see a lot of Chinese made folders and fixed blades infiltrating our market over the years, but those two categories, automatics and bally songs, cannot be legally imported into the United States. So,
Really?
yes, so those two categories continue to grow with American manufacturers in the past, present, and I believe will continue to grow in the future, obviously, in these times we live in now. Um, and with the legalization of both of these categories of knives in so many more states, akti.org. Go there, check your local laws. You'd be surprised. A lot of people come up and are like, "Oh, I don't know if I can have this." So many states now, it's legal to carry, it's legal to own. All states are legal to own. It depends on whether you can carry or not. But those two categories of knives continue to be juggernauts in our industry. Adjunct, in the last year or two, I can sort of predict or tell you that a lot of the trends that I'm seeing are pocket carry fixed blades, which are going to be, a 6 inch or shorter fixed blade knife in a sheath, either leather or kydex, in a concealed carry style on someone's person. These categories of knives are really, it was a small part before. Like we've seen fixed blades, kind of fixed blades, they're always popular. Everyone wants a Bowie knife. But in the last 2 years, the sub 6-inch, what we call a pocket fixed blade, that's where we're seeing the industry trend to right now. There's a lot of brands getting on that train. TCAL knives, huge juggernaut in that respect. We're seeing, Michael Jarvis from Auxiliary Manufacturing, great guy. Shout out to Mike. I carry a lot of his products. He's awesome dude, great maker.
Yeah, he joined us out at CanCon. Yep.
Oh yeah, that's right. There you go. So yeah, Mike's awesome. Love Auxiliary Manufacturing. The Pocket Bowie is a great model. He's probably part of a four manufacturer reason why that section of fixed blades is becoming so popular. It's really, people want a small fixed blade they can carry. They don't want this giant Bowie thing. They want something they can sort of, IWB, they might have a pistol or they might not, but something that can kind of sit in your waistband and be concealed instead of having a pocket knife or sometimes alongside a pocket knife. But yes,
that makes sense. I think that fits more people's lifestyles than a giant Bowie knife.
Yeah, it's tough to go to the office with a giant Bowie knife, or go to the range with one.
So, okay, now maybe you can clear up some confusion for me. Sure. Because Bowie, right? That's how I always said it. That's how I've always heard it said.
Okay.
But then there's been some personalities in the media who call it a Bowie knife.
Bowie knife.
Have you heard that? Which one's which?
So a lot of that's. For the record, I will not go on the record to answer this question. So this comes down to like a Tanto Tonto thing, which is very similar. Like Tanto, Tonto, one was the character, one was the knife. So I think for this record, I think it was, a lot of people say Bowie, some people say Bowie. I think it was Jim Bowie was probably his name, and a lot of people say Bowie knife. I say Bowie knife. It's probably Bowie, just because if you look at where he came from and the time, it would make sense for them to alliterate Bowie sort of in that very Texas style. I say both, give or take. I don't think it matters. People know what you're talking about. But on the other hand, somebody brought up a point where it's David Bowie, not Jim Bowie. So you have the David, nobody says.
Yeah, but David Bowie didn't make a knife. He's not known for knives.
Exactly.
Be cool if he did.
And nobody said David Bowie. So there's that. There's no confusion there. So I think either one is totally acceptable, to be honest. Like I said, I don't know if I want to join either side.
You're not providing any clarity whatsoever. No? Come on. It's okay to be controversial. You can pick a side.
Oh, trust me. There is no part of PVK that is often not uncontroversial. I'm going to say Bowie knife. I'm going to say Bowie knife. I'm going to stand on it and say Bowie knife.
You heard it here, folks. It's Bowie knife. It's official now.
It's Bowie. That's fine. Yep,
all right.
Absolutely.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Like as far as trends go, like have you seen any come full circle?
It's a good question. So yes. So the knife industry, like any other industry, right, sees these trends over the years. The 90s were sort of a huge surge in interest in automatics, probably because they were very clandestine, tactical, like weapons, and at the time they were very illegal. So you saw a big boom because of that, and you see this, you see the tactical knife thing, right? This tactical knife. We didn't always have that. The late 90s, 2000s saw this like tactical knife craze. You see this thick knife craze. You see like the really big Striders, the really big Medfords, these big battle knives. You see a lot of stonewash, blasted titanium, very gray knives. That fades away. We get into more EDC culture, right? Middle of 2000s, 2006 to 2010, buffered by a few years. You see the EDC culture bloom because of the internet, right?
The early 2000s was the dawn of EDC, you'd say?
No, I would say 2000. I would say later on. I'd say 2006-ish, and okay. I would credit a couple different sources there. I would say Triple Aught Design, which is a huge continued sort of soft and hard goods supplier in our industry that has expanded outside. Triple Aught Design helped that EDC movement a lot, and then you see the term EDC sort of start to happen in the middle of 2000s, and you see pocket dumps, right? Like I have a flashlight, I have my gun, I have my knife, I have my fork and my whatever else I'm carrying in my pocket. But you see these trends kind of come and go. And then in the middle of 2000s, you see the sort of slope in interest in automatics and bally songs. You see the small folding knives, just small manual knives, which turned into flippers, but we didn't really know how to make them then. Most flippers in that time were very, very poorly made. They got better though, so hold your breath for that one. And then so I mean, you see these curves come back, and then now, in the post 2010 era, we see automatics, bally songs, and more EDC style knives come back, and we see the waning of sort of these hard tactical battle knives, these hard tactical fixed blades we saw for so long, were these massive like quarter-inch D2 monsters that are very cool, but not practical for anything but really just collection. I don't think that any battlefield warrior would carry something that's way too big and heavy. It's not realistic. So yeah, I mean, no, trends come and go, and I think now I could confidently say we're back on a small fixed blade trend. I think that's coming back in a real way, and why that is, I think people are responding to things and looking to be more concealed in what they carry, right? I talk to a lot of guys and they carry, same thing in guns, right? Like, you have your friends who carry the 1911 and think that's a completely reasonable thing. And then beside him is the guy carrying a 17 and he's like, this is a normal gun. For you, it might be. For the rest of us, that's maybe a bit big. You're looking for something like a 365 paired with a 4-inch fixed blade makes more sense, right? You're still, capable to do your tasks, whatever those may be, but you're a little more lightweight, a little more concealed. You put your shirt over it. You don't have a big pocket clip. It makes more sense.
I've always been of the opinion, if you're going to carry something like that or practice some sort of EDC, it should be to a point where if somebody looks at you, they don't see that you have those things on you. They just see a normally dressed guy with nothing, right? But,
Makes sense.
stashed on you somewhere, you've got your knife and whatever else, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would agree. Yeah.
Like, surprise kind of goes out the window if you got like this giant dangle sheath, you're like thigh carrying a Bowie knife,
I think that concealed makes more sense for most situations, unless you want to feel the power of the world on your hip, which is some people do, and they should absolutely do that. But in most cases, in most cases you want to be concealed. I think a lot of subcompact pistols and compact pistols, but certainly subcompact pistols, have evolved right in the last 5 or 10 years as a response to that same thing, which is a full-size Python is a lot of pistol to carry, and if you can pack 12 rounds into a subcompact pistol double stacked, it makes more sense to carry it. You're just as effective if needed, but in a much smaller package and in a much more reasonable, day-to-day in and out of the car, at the office kind of thing. So same thing with the fixed blade or a pocket knife. In a lot of scenarios, as a knife guy, it's hard to believe that, but I mean, a pocket clip can sometimes be louder than it seems to us. If you're wearing black jeans and you have a silver pocket clip in a city, you're going to stand out. Maybe that's not so great. Maybe you don't want that. Maybe you're not a deadly ninja assassin, but the need for a pocket knife is a practical tool for everyday reasons. So a small fixed blade in your pants, in your waistband, makes more sense.
I see that. You know what, though, now that I'm thinking about it, if we all started walking around, hip carrying a scimitar or katana or something, if I saw somebody with that, I wouldn't mess with them.
You're right. You're not wrong.
Could be a deterrent. Bigger could be a really effective deterrent. I would not mess with a guy carrying a sword, no matter how badass I thought I was.
No, nope. If you were if you were back carrying like a full size katana, like, no, I'm not. I'm good. Whatever's clever, man. Like, if you, sure, I'm not cutting you in line. I don't want to be part of it.
Exactly.
Deterrent is a reasonable way to look at that. Absolutely. Yep. Wear loud, wear proud.
Exactly. So you've seen just, I can't even imagine the number of knives and anything with a blade that you've seen. But over the years, what have you noticed that, like, what qualities of a knife make it? Like, what's the minimum standard of a quality knife, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Standard quality knife. Okay, good question. I would say from a personal perspective, I would say that any knife is better than no knife to start with, right? Like having a knife on you is the basis of most of human development.
The
Humans
best
have been,
knife is the one you have.
that's it. At the end of the day, if it's a gas station knife, great. If you have a knife and you need it and it's a gas station knife, you need to cut something, you know, it's gonna get the job done,
Some of
right?
those gas station knives look really cool.
They can be rather bright and fanciful. I mean, if that's what you're into, right? Like gateway drugs look different for everybody. That's all I'm gonna say, you know. But I mean, like a quality knife beyond that, beyond like just getting the basic cutting need done. For me, I see the knife industry as a very bespoke, very American thing. So I would say that for me, the baseline of a quality knife is, an American-made pocket knife. There's lots of them available out there at various price ranges. I would say a quality steel is also a really good start. 440C, ATS 34. These will do the job, but they're not great. I would look for a slightly more premium steel, like an M390, 154 CM. Some of the CPM products are great as well. So American made, any kind of entry good blade steel, and right after that's going to be good ergonomics, right? Does it fit in your hand? Is it comfortable? If you squeeze it, and you're going to be using this thing regularly, is it comfortable? Is it something you like? It's a very personal thing, just like anything else you carry, a pistol or whatever. Is it comfortable? Do you like this? Is this your jam? But manufacturing quality is a huge thing I look for. There's lots of examples in the showroom of American-made stuff at an amazing deal. Three Rivers Manufacturing makes a phenomenal, very skinny American-made pocket knife. It's made about 2 hours away from here, in Massachusetts. Those guys are killing it. They're bringing an amazing value to the table. Great steel and everything we just talked about. Slim, lightweight, great for EDC carry. But there's lots of options. If Benchmade is your thing, that's great too. But I would look for something American made, honestly. This industry has really exploded stateside, and we've always done really well supporting our manufacturers here. And I know that everyone's budget is different, but in a bespoke item like a pocket knife, something that you're going to interact with, for me, on an hourly basis, for some people on a daily basis, definitely get something that's American made. So support the stateside guys, step it up a little bit. Maybe it's going to cost slightly more than you want, but not much more than you think. It's going to last a lifetime, and anything made in the USA, it's going to be guaranteed for life. These guys stand behind everything they make. Doesn't matter what company it is, it's guaranteed for life unless you take the knife and jam it in the door and break it. That's not what it's for. But those are the qualities I would look for. Those are the qualities that I talk to customers about. And again, all budgets are different. You need a $60 knife? I got you. That's fine. If you're looking to spend 150 though, you'd be surprised what you could get.
You touched on a very controversial topic there, knife steel.
Oh boy. Oh geez. Okay.
Yeah, and so, I mean, do you think the average person with no metallurgical background is even gonna know a
No.
huge difference, between high carbon and stainless, or just any variation thereof?
So I'll be happy to give you a hot take on this one because you brought me right up into it. So I'll just give you a hot take.
Do it.
Most people don't understand what steel is or how it works anyway. Most people who are professionals couldn't discern one steel from the other without it being labeled on the steel. That's a huge thing. Like, I'll just say that, people are like, oh, what's the best blade steel? Again, my answer is going to be the steel that's in your pocket, the one that's going to cut stuff,
Steel is steel. It's pretty strong.
It is pretty strong.
Regardless,
Yeah. No, I mean, as far as knife steel goes, I have my favorites. But really any good, higher grade metallurgical alloy is going to be great. M390, like I said, any of the CTS or CPM, any of the Carpenter steels. D2 is a great steel. Like, that's controversial in a way because D2 is so it's a tool steel. It's not really a knife steel. It's a tool steel. D2 is great. It'll get the job done. Really what it comes down to is proper edge retention and sharpness. Are you sharpening your knife? Is someone else sharpening it for you? Whatever. Does it have an edge on it? Is it heat treated properly? Most production ones are heat treated properly. That being said, sometimes, variances can happen.
I was going to say, I think any steel can be phenomenal if it's heat treated the right way.
Really, that's pretty much true, actually. Especially, again, I have customers all over the world. I ship knives to places I can't tell you about. I ship a lot of knives to APOs, FPOs. I ship them all over the world to guys actually using this stuff. You see what those guys buy. They buy everything from here to here. I mean, whatever works. Those guys are the only ones using this stuff to the point where most of these people don't understand. I love them. I love my customers. I love everybody. But when I hear people talk about knife steel, I'm like, look, if it cuts to a point. You're never going to be pushing this item. You're most likely never going to be pushing this item to the point where you're really going to notice, the differences in the steel. Like, are you thrusting it through a helicopter fuselage, like while you're jumping out? Are you on the battlefield, pushing this tool to its limits? Are you just hanging out cutting Amazon boxes? That's totally cool too. When it comes to knife steel, yeah, a box razor will open a knife, and we have some great versions of that by American manufacturers, with replaceable blades that'll do the job.
So, along that vein, what are some of the most annoying knife questions that you've come across? What's your top three? I mean, you've got people coming in the store, coming to ask you questions all the time, hitting you up on the emails, on the gram, in your DMs.
There's so many ways of communication. It's a small business. I love it. People are they'll hit you up anywhere they can find you. So a Vegas story then is what this will be. We had a customer email in and ask if a knife was bulletproof. It's a strange one. Obviously, there's some interpretation issues there, so we emailed back. Surely you don't actually mean like bulletproof, like a projectile from, no, like bulletproof. So we proceeded to call in, and it was like a 30-minute conversation, and he was looking at a Medford. He was looking at a Medford full-size titanium Praetorian, which is probably actually the only knife that I would say is bulletproof. And as it turned out, at the end of the phone conversation, I don't know why I waited till the end, he was a Las Vegas Metro police officer, and he was very serious about whether or not the knife was bulletproof. And again, a Medford Praetorian a titanium one's about yay big, and it's probably about yay thick. So, I mean, if there was going to be a knife that was going to be bulletproof, that was going to be the one. And we assured him that I could not guarantee him it would stop a bullet, but given the material density and knowledge of, some sort of rounds, it would stop a 9mm, probably stop a 45, at a distance. Other than that particular interesting question, it's got to be knife steels. It's got to be, what's the coolest knife steel? Will this knife steel hold up to scuba diving? Will this knife steel hold up to hard use when I'm in the jungle? Will this knife steel hold up to, all kinds of these tasks that I can only imagine, having? That gets trying, I should say, because there's just so many knife steels out there, and they really do all excel differently depending on what you're looking for. And if you have a very specific use case in mind, it's easier to direct people. But if they have no concept, and it's a very newbie knife guy kind of thing, is to like get down on the steel science and try to figure out, whatever. And that's why, as I did earlier, look at the knife itself. Look at the ergonomics. Do you like the way the knife looks? Do you like the way it handles? Like, look at these things before obsessing over the knife's steel. In the end, heat treat and sharpness are what you're looking for there. Because the knife steel thing is, especially lately, we see a lot of, and I can tell you, see a lot more new American steels coming because of everything that's happening. So not to get out too much of a tangent.
No, tangents are good.
Knife steels aren't made in America.
So
just in case anyone was confused about that, they are American steels, But those are poured and smelted in other countries and imported here for rolling and for cutting. But they're not, the origin of the product is not here, it's other places. And it comes here and we refine it and do all kinds of fun stuff to get it to the steel warehouses who eventually supply it to the manufacturers.
I think what I find most interesting about that question people are asking you about steels, I mean, if you look at our forebears, they went out in the wilderness with their axes and their hunting knives, and they didn't give a hoot about what kind of steel it was. And it was fine, right? They used it, it got dull, they sharpened it, and they used it again. Like that. And this was before metallurgy and heat treating became such an exacting science, and it was working great for thousands of years. And so,
Yeah.
like, the obsession with which stool gives you just such a like microscopic up on jungle survival, or stabbing the fuselages of helicopters,
Stuff might come up. I don't
it's
know.
interesting that people
Yeah.
think about that stuff now.
No, I mean, like I said, it's, these tools, these art objects, whatever they are, these things, it's just that. It's the thing you have in your pocket, it's the thing you have on your person to get a task done. Worry about your interaction with the item more than the actual composition of the steel. That's like the last portion of it. For me, like I said, is it USA made? Does it use premium materials? Is it guaranteed for life? Do you know the people who made this? Like, these are more important questions than the knife steel itself, because at the end of that conversation, I can guarantee you the company that produced that item, they chose a great steel for that knife based on more categories than you could possibly think of. Price and use are definitely up there. Like, they chose the steel for that knife because they were like, well, this is where we want to be with this item. you know it's a steel blade and often either aluminum or carbon fiber handle. Carbon fiber handle you can break under enough pressure. An aluminum handle will eventually shear before the blade does. What are you going to be doing with the thing where you're more worried about that than the rest of the knife? Just enjoy the thing and use it. It doesn't matter in the end. If it's a $60 Spyderco, those are still some of my favorite knives. Spyderco Endura full serrated. I still have one of those on my desk. I love it. Uh, you know, it's great. It's made in Seki City. It was fantastic. It's a great knife.
What are your favorite most recent innovations that you've seen? And when it comes to knife, just does it could be design or performance, and on the flip side of that, like what are the innovations that you shake your head at sometimes?
So I would say that's a good question. Innovation it's a rare and tricky thing in the knife industry, because it's a really big small industry. It's comprised of a lot of people, and the people who actually work and design things in the knife industry are a small group of people. So sometimes you do see a lot of echoing of designs and echoing of ideas, homages, so to say, from here and there. I think that a lot of the developing innovations have probably been in the OTF realm in the last few years. We see the zero blade play, that's coming in. Where the blade doesn't wiggle. We see the most recent, and I think really neat. I haven't gotten my hands on one yet, but Worksharp just did it's a folding knife where you remove the pivot and then you put in a different pivot, so it turns the knife from a flipper button lock into a button lock automatic. That's got to be the coolest thing that I actually haven't touched yet. I'm looking forward to seeing one of those at Blade Show. I think that looks really cool. I would say the best innovation is manufacturing. That's an easy one. I don't shake my head at that. I applaud all of those in our industry who are taking what they have, which is an amazing product, and they're reinvesting in continuously making it in America. And any product that they have offshored, they're looking to build that more in the United States. And that's because of the expansion of the knife industry. First, you know, because we see so many new people getting involved. We see a lot of people jumping into the knife industry as customers and as manufacturers and as designers, and they're looking to be, part of this group of people who are enthusiasts, and passionate about knives. So manufacturing is a huge thing. We don't have enough USA OEMs, and I think we're going to start to see more of those as well. I know that doesn't directly answer your question. It's sort of, there's a couple things in there. But I mean, as far as mechanisms go, the pivot on the work sharp knife is pretty cool. I'm very much looking forward to seeing that.
Right on. And so nothing you're like, what are these guys doing?
Oh, you're looking for a hot take?
Always.
Let's see. I think there's some really strange. It's all like nitpicky nerd stuff of like pivot geometry, and like a lot of people try to reinvent the wheel, and it was a perfectly good wheel to begin with, and you're changing it for absolutely no reason, not to make it better, but just to make it more complicated. In an engineering sense, the less parts there are, the less parts there are to break. So a lot of the folder guys try strange things, and it's really cool, but it's not really necessary to make the product better. It just makes it more complicated, which is not necessarily great. It's just makes it more complicated, more finicky. Again, keep it simple, keep it spicy, keep it straightforward. In a lot of cases, I'm not going to name names on that.
That's okay. We won't get you in trouble. What like at your store, right? You got people
Yes.
coming, checking out your knives. They get their hands on them, right? What's the worst injury you've ever had happen?
That happens yeah. Okay. So
Is
the
it
worst
that
one.
frequently?
It's less lately, but it used to be worse. Vegas was certainly the worst. Like you know, we've all, what's the best way to frame this? We've all been in that situation, or maybe a lot of us have been in that situation. You go into a gun store, and there's that one individual who just, no matter what happens, it's like, hey, that's not how we do that. Like, you can't, like, no, like, that's not, and it makes you nervous, right? So in a knife store, it's a similar thing. You have knives everywhere, and you get these guys, and they're like, I fucking know what I'm talking about. I'm fucking, you don't tell me what to do, man. I'm like, whatever. Like, okay, guys, sure. Super macho, great. Those are the guys who cut themselves the most, because they just know. I know what I'm doing. And that can be dangerous. So we had this ninja guy. We had this like special forces dude, totally great. Respect the service, no problem. He was like, I've killed hundreds of people. Okay, man, that's great. Could you please just be careful? That's all I'm saying. I have my job. I'm just saying, be careful, all right? And he starts flipping a very big karambit. And this particular karambit, if you're not familiar, karambits, traditional ones are large fixed blades with this very curved blade. And at the end of the handle, there's a ring, so you can put your pinky in there, so you can do these big draw cuts, these slash cuts.
It's like if they made a knife that looks like a velociraptor
Yes.
toenail.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then, so the ring, he flipped around and he put on his pointer finger, and he was sort of doing this thing like some guys on Instagram might do. And he's like, yeah, like swinging it around. He's, like doing the like ninja, like dude. He's like, cha 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 cha. I'm like fighting somebody. He spins the karambit around, and the karambit just whoosh, like directly into his arm, like that deep. It just kind of sunk into his arm, and then we all just did that's not. Did you just no? And then he's just kind of staring at his arm and looking at us, and he's like, "Oh,
Band-Aid, please."
Yeah. So then, like, and we still have this now. We just have Disney Princess Band-Aids. The only Band-Aids we use in the shop are Disney Princess Band-Aids. If you cut yourself and you work here, you get Disney Princess Band-Aid.
You get a depreciating Band-Aid.
And he was just, immediately we're like, no, don't. And he just pulls it out of his arm. And I mean, if anyone's ever stabbed themselves or cut themselves, you kind of want to put that off for a minute until everything is together. Because he just pulled the karambit out. And I mean, he was just like, it was, he was in his.
Did he strike oil when he
Yeah,
hit that?
no, it was
man.
whoa, guy, like. So we ran in the back and we tried to bandage him up as much as we could. I was like, look, I'm gonna call somebody. Like, this needs stitches. Like, you're bleeding. That personality archetype doesn't deal with that situation well. So he was just took his shirt off, wrapped it around. He's like, I'm fine, I'm leaving. And it was like, okay, like you should get stitches for that. Like, an inch and a half gash in your arm. He's like, oh, I'm fine. I'm leaving. He's like, immediately get out of there. Meanwhile, there's just blood spray on the cases, on the floor, on the like. I don't keep the cramp, it cares, but like, there's just blood everywhere. So you're immediately, it's a little bit of a hazmat scenario. Like, I don't know that guy. I don't know. I'm sure his blood's clean, whatever. But like, I don't. So that was pretty bad. That was the worst. And then all the time, it's the guys. Same thing. It's they have a knife and they're like, "How sharp is this?" And they just go whoosh, and it's like, no, that's not. And then like they're just looking at their finger like it's razor sharp. What did you think was gonna? I'm sorry. What did you think was gonna happen there? We have a sign in the showroom now which says, "Do not strum the blade. Don't see if it's
Don't
sharp."
strum the blade.
Because traditionally, if you've got a knife, right? This is my out of focus. This is my Microtech Scarab, full serrated, best knife ever. I love this knife. So, if you want it, you could sort of strum it like this, side to side, see if it's sharp. That's okay, sure. I ask customers not to do that, just because people don't understand. But yeah, guys are always like, they run their fingers down the blade like in a cutting fashion. Don't do that. It's not great. A lot of cuts from that.
I always see people, they have to do the newspaper slice or the cardboard tube slice. Like is like let's clear up some misconception. Like if you're curious and you actually want to know if a knife is sharp to whatever degree, best practices.
Okay, best practices. First of all, if it's not your knife, make sure you ask. First of all, if you're at a knife show, ask. They're probably going to say no. If you're at a knife showroom, ask. Probably going to say no too. But let's just say you get past that. If you have a knife, we see a lot of this too. They're like, oh, let me like shave myself.
Shave your arms, yeah.
Can you not shave in my showroom? I don't need your detritus on my. Don't do that. If you have a knife and you want to see if it's sharp carefully, best way to do that, take your thumbnail. It's the biggest nail you've got. Take your thumbnail and you can drag the blade slowly across your thumbnail. Thumbnail is very soft. It will tell you very quickly how sharp that knife is. Again, that's about the amount of pressure, and then just drag it across. You can feel it through your thumbnail. You'll feel that the blade is very sharp, and looking at your thumbnail, you'll see it's scratched, and you'll probably build up a little bit, just like that. You'll build up a little bit of thumbnail pile on your thumbnail. That's really like that's a somewhat acceptable way to test if a knife is sharp. Again, if you have to, otherwise, sure, like this would be your next best, slowly just checking the edge with your finger, but just be careful. Like it's a knife, it's sharp, just assume it's sharp.
And if you're listening to this podcast and you try out these methods, let us know if you cut your thumb off on accident. I'd love to hear that.
Picture didn't happen.
Pictures are a must.
That's right. Yep.
On the business side of things.
Sure.
I have come to realize that people who are great at making knives and things like that aren't so great at, building web pages or, managing fulfillment in like a smooth way, right? I'm not calling anybody out here, but I've noticed like some people may not even know what if you say URL, they might look at you like, something's growing out of your forehead. Do you have any advice for like people in this wheelhouse that would enhance, what they're doing and kind of like make them look better, right? Because a lot of people have beautiful, beautiful products, right? But like the delivery, could use some improvement.
Absolutely. So you touch on a really important and crucial subject in our industry, which is the smaller or mid-sized, up and coming, or sometimes established custom knife maker, right? Like custom knife maker, not necessarily entrepreneur, packaging specialist, marketing specialist, not necessarily a business person. The best way to get that information, if you're in that area and you need a hand, the knife industry has always been, and I will change to say knife community, has always been, will always be, I'd like to think, very open space. What do I mean by that? We're all in this together. What do I mean by that? We're all competing, but as I said earlier, it's a friendly competition, right? The best way to solve that is to ask somebody. Now, I'm a knife dealer. I would have two sides of that. I would say talent needs agency. I've seen a lot of guys who just say, I don't want to deal with it. I have guys I deal with that. I have custom knife makers I deal with that now. They send me this stuff and they go, you deal with it. You do the marketing. You do the sales. You do that. You just send me the check and I don't want any part of it. Good use for a knife dealer. I'll do all the promotions. I'll do the talking. I'll do the interfacing with people. If you don't want to do that, totally fine. Also, ask somebody, ask anybody. I'm a knife dealer. I talk to knife makers all the time about this stuff. Almost on a daily basis, I talk to knife makers about pricing, packaging, market perceptions, visuals on this, visuals on that. Most people are super, super happy to have these conversations because we've all been in that place. If you're a custom knife maker, go to a show. If you're a collector, go to a show. Show culture is the meat and potatoes of the knife community. Show culture is something that we all are on the same page. We're all in the same room. We're all excited about the same thing. We're all having the same conversation. I cannot tell people enough. If you're listening to this podcast and you're still here and I'm droning on about knives, go to a knife show. Go. Find a local club. There are lots of local clubs in lots of states and lots of metropolitan cities. Go to Blade Show. Go to one of the smaller shows. Go to a show. Bring the knives you're working on. Bring one or two. Go up to any custom knife maker. I can guarantee you that guy is going to be super, super friendly. Doesn't matter what level he's at. If he's part of the upper tier, custom knife makers in the world, he's going to put his stuff down, take a deep breath, take your knife. He's going to look at it and he's going to be dead honest with you about the quality, the fit, and the finish. He's going to talk to you about pricing. He's going to talk to you about the market. Everything will stop and he's happy to talk to you about that. That's true across the board. If you find somebody like that who doesn't do that, send them my way. I'd love to have a conversation with them because I've never experienced it. Everybody at every knife show is the friendliest person who's more than happy to talk to anybody, customer or maker, about any part of this business. So as you said, as a business question, I take that just as seriously. I look at the knife community and I want to see, and that sounds cheesy, I want to see me in the knife community. I want to see people talking about this stuff who are open to talk to anybody about any part of it. Transparency is a huge thing in what we do. And being a custom knife maker, you're going to run across this stuff. You're like, I don't know what to charge for this. Bro, I have that conversation all the time with people. I don't know what to charge. Should I do, a COA on paper? Should I do a COA on metal? Should I do this? Start a conversation with anybody in the industry. By in the industry, I do mean a dealer or another maker, because they're going to stop the world. They're going to put everything down and they're going to take that conversation as dead serious as any other conversation they've ever had, because we've all been in that place where we're like, I don't know the next step on how to do this. And we're going to take time to help that person with that.
I can attest to that as well. If there's anybody listening and they're thinking about asking someone or coming to you even and asking a question, or going to a show, don't be intimidated. The knife community is amazing. They're always friendly. I've never ran into a single person yet who I walked away from with a bad taste in my mouth. Yeah. And it's good timing too. We got Blade Show Atlanta right around the corner, which is a fantastic way to do that. We also have Blade Show West in October, Blade Show Tactical in November, and then Blade Show Texas again next March, and the process repeats every year. Plenty of opportunities and locations to get involved.
No, especially at a Blade Show is Atlanta. I love it. I love going to Blade Show Atlanta. It's like a total circus of fun. I see friends, I see family, I see everybody. It's great. It's such a big show, so it's a little overwhelming, but it's a great show to interface with all parts of the community. Blade Show West, Salt Lake City, love that show. Blade Show Texas, love that show even more. Those are really manageable size shows, and I think we see a really different turnout from customers and from makers at those shows. But no, absolutely, the knife industry is nothing but just friendly individuals who happen to be doing the same thing over and over again. And really, show culture is so important to, I think, to any industry, but especially the knife community, just because what we do is so tactile. It's, I made this thing. What do you think? Would you like to buy? Should I do better? These are important, aspects of the whole process.
Definitely. I've only got one last question for you, man, and I've got to
Yeah.
ask every single person on the show because it's the Off-Grid podcast.
Okay.
So, if you could compress all of your wisdom and experience into one golden nugget of survival knowledge, what is your ultimate piece of survival wisdom that you can give?
A piece of survival wisdom.
Yeah.
I think I'll go with my original, which I do believe in because it's something I do all the time. But it's the knife in your pocket is the best knife. That's it. For survival, I would never want to be in any environment without a pocket knife for any reason. Be it the wilderness, be it the urban jungle. I believe that the pocket knife is the most intrinsically ornate, simple tool that man has ever created for use. Any kind of pocket knife, anything. A kiradashi, a small fixed blade, a 6-inch in the waistband one, a folding scalpel knife, a snap-on replaceable blade knife. I would never be caught in any scenario without a pocket knife. I've had a pocket knife in my pocket for a long time. I don't know how old I am, but I've very rarely in my life have I ever not had a pocket knife on me. And it's always done me well in any scenario, any job, anytime. You should have, it should be part of your kit no matter what. Today I'm not wearing a wristwatch, but I would say, a wristwatch is the next best thing. It's the analog tool, but a watch and a knife, I think any survival scenario, I mean, any kind of blade is going to get you out of get out of anything, whether it's fire prep, food prep, anything that you need to cut. You can't cut it with your nails and your teeth. You can cut it with a pocket knife.
100%. And I'm totally inclined to agree with that. And on that note, Jeremiah, thank you for joining me. It was great having you on. Definitely welcome back anytime.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.